You're standing in a room full of people. A conversation unfolds, heated, intense. Someone says something that cuts deep, a remark aimed directly at your insecurities. You feel it instantly, your heart rate spikes, your breath shortens, a heat rises within you. The weight of 1,000 past humiliations presses against your chest. Your mind scrambles for a response, something sharp, something that will restore your dignity. And then it happens. You speak, but not from reason. You lash out. The words leave your mouth like an arrow shot in blind rage. A moment later, the realization hits you. You lost control. Now the room is silent. People exchange glances. And in that suffocating stillness, a thought creeps in. Why did I react like that? Maybe it wasn't anger. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was shame disguised as defiance. Maybe it was something older, deeper, a wound from years ago that never fully healed. But the question remains, who was in control at that moment? You. Or the emotion that consumed you? The lie you've been told. Since childhood, you've been given the same advice. Control your emotions. Don't let anger get the best of you. Stay calm under pressure. But here's the paradox. The more you try to suppress an emotion, the more it controls you. Think about it. The harder you fight against anger, the more it simmers beneath the surface. The more you force yourself to stay calm, the more anxious you become. Fear, sadness, jealousy, they don't just disappear because you tell them to. In fact, they often return with greater force, waiting for the perfect moment to hijack your mind. So, if suppression doesn't work, then what does? This is where things become unsettling. Because the real secret isn't about controlling your emotions. It's about something far more counterintuitive. But before we get there, we need to uncover a deeper truth, one that has been shaping your emotions long before you even realized it. And that begins with understanding the invisible forces that dictate how you feel. You were never taught how to understand your emotions, only how to fear them. From childhood, you were conditioned to believe that emotions are problems to be solved, weaknesses to be controlled, or enemies to be conquered. If you cried, someone told you to stop. If you were angry, you were told to calm down. If you were scared, you were told to be strong. But here's the truth. Emotions are not the problem. Your relationship with them is. Somewhere along the way, you learned to see emotions as threats rather than signals, something to be hidden rather than understood. And this single belief has trapped you in a never-ending cycle. You feel something intense. You try to suppress it. It builds up, controlling you from the shadows. It erupts when you least expect it in ways you regret. You feel guilt or shame for losing control. You promise to suppress it better next time. And so the cycle continues. But what if this entire system is built on a lie? What if emotions aren't meant to be controlled in the way you were taught? To understand this, we must go deeper, into the very nature of the human psyche. Carl Jung and the shadow you refuse to face. Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds in psychology, spoke of something called the shadow, the hidden part of yourself that contains everything you repress. Think of your mind as a vast, dark ocean. Your conscious thoughts, the ones you acknowledge, are like small islands floating on the surface. But beneath that surface lies something deeper, something powerful, your unconscious mind. And inside it, all the emotions you've ever been told to suppress. Every unspoken resentment, every unexpressed fear, every desire you've buried under the weight of social expectations. Your shadow holds it all. But here's the dangerous part. Whatever you reject in yourself does not disappear. It only gains power. Jung warned that when you deny your emotions, they don't simply fade away. Instead, they sink into your unconscious, where they continue to influence your actions, but without your awareness. Have you ever snapped at someone for no reason? Felt an inexplicable wave of sadness in the middle of a good day? Ruined something important because of a self-destructive impulse you didn't understand? That's your shadow in action. The emotions you refuse to face will find their way back to the surface. But when they do, they will control you, not the other way around. So the real question isn't how to suppress emotions. The real question is, how do you integrate them? Nietzsche's warning, the danger of suppression. Friedrich Nietzsche had a warning for those who tried to master their emotions by force. He spoke of resentment, a toxic hidden rage that grows in those who suppress their emotions instead of confronting them. He argued that when people are forced to deny their true feelings, they become bitter, passive-aggressive, and self-destructive. Think about someone who always pretends to be nice, no matter what. They suppress their anger, always smile, always say the right thing. But deep down, something is growing inside them. A quiet rage, a resentment that builds with every forced smile and unspoken word. And one day, it explodes. This is why people suddenly lash out after years of silence. This is why relationships collapse under years of hidden resentment. This is why you sometimes don't recognize your own reactions. You were never taught to process emotions, only to suppress them. And Nietzsche knew that suppression always leads to one of two outcomes: self-destruction. You turn your emotions inward, leading to depression, anxiety, or apathy. Explosive destruction. You lash out at the world in uncontrollable ways. Either way you lose, unless you do something different. Schopenhauer's brutal truth about emotional pain. Arthur Schopenhauer, one of the darkest but most insightful philosophers, believed that suffering is the fundamental nature of life. He argued that most people spend their entire existence running from pain, but the more they run, the more pain controls them. Imagine being stuck in quicksand. If you struggle violently, you sink faster. But if you stop resisting and learn to move differently, you find a way out. Emotions work the same way. The more you fight them, the more they consume you. Schopenhauer's brutal truth is this: to master your emotions, you must stop running from them. You must turn around, face them, and let them speak. This is where most people fail, because facing your emotions means facing your true self. And that is terrifying. Most people would rather distract themselves with social media, empty entertainment, and meaningless work than sit alone with their feelings. Because if they did, they might have to confront truths they've been avoiding for years. But what if Schopenhauer was right? What if the secret to emotional control isn't avoidance, but confrontation, the hidden problem revealed? Here's the truth no one tells you. You don't need to control your emotions. You need to understand them. Your emotions are not enemies. They are messengers. And every time you suppress one, you silence a part of yourself that is trying to be heard. Anger is not just anger. It is unspoken pain. Fear is not just fear. It is a warning from a deeper part of you. Sadness is not just sadness. It is a sign that something within you is unfinished. Your job is not to push them away. It is to listen. But how? That is where the real transformation begins. Because once you understand the hidden forces behind your emotions, you can begin to reclaim control. And in the next section, we will explore the unseen consequences of ignoring this truth, and why most people never escape. Imagine living your entire life thinking you are in control, only to realize that the very emotions you've been suppressing have been controlling you all along. That every outburst, every moment of self-doubt, every sudden wave of sadness or anxiety wasn't random. It was a message, a warning, a truth you refused to face. And yet, this is how most people live. They think they're managing their emotions, but in reality, their emotions are managing them. Subtly, invisibly, in ways they don't even recognize. And the consequences? They shape everything: your relationships, your decisions, your identity. Let's uncover them. 1. You become a prisoner of your own mind. The human brain is an incredible machine, but it has a flaw. It cannot ignore what is unresolved. Suppressed emotions do not disappear. Instead, they fester beneath the surface, subtly altering your thoughts and behaviors. This is why people stay trapped in the same destructive patterns for years. Why they keep repeating the same mistakes in relationships. Why they sabotage opportunities without realizing why. Because deep down, they are controlled by emotions they refuse to acknowledge. Psychologists call this emotional suppression bias, the tendency to believe we are rational when in reality, our hidden emotions dictate our decisions. Think about it. Have you ever felt an unexplainable fear of success, as if something was holding you back? That's suppressed self-doubt. Have you ever pushed someone away for no reason only to regret it later? That's buried insecurity. Have you ever lashed out in anger and later realized you weren't even mad about that situation? That's repressed pain finding a way out. The more you ignore your emotions, the more they control your subconscious. And the worst part? You won't even realize it's happening. 2. Your relationships become battlefields of projection. One of the most devastating consequences of emotional suppression is projection. Projection is when you see in others what you refuse to see in yourself. It's the reason why people blame their partners for being too needy, when in reality they fear their own vulnerability. It's why people call others weak, when deep down they are afraid of confronting their own pain. Carl Jung warned that whatever you refuse to acknowledge in yourself, you will see in the people around you. This is why relationships, romantic, friendships, even family, become battlegrounds. Because instead of facing our own emotions, we use others as mirrors, throwing our unprocessed feelings onto them. A man who suppresses his own insecurities might constantly accuse his partner of being too emotional. A woman who has buried her fear of abandonment might sabotage relationships before someone can leave her. A friend who secretly resents their own failures might constantly criticize your ambitions. This is why people ruin relationships they care about, without ever understanding why. Because instead of dealing with their own shadows, they fight the reflections of them in others. 3. Your body keeps score. Here's something terrifying. Your body knows what your mind refuses to process. Dr. Gabor Mate, a leading expert on trauma and addiction, has shown that unprocessed emotions do not just affect the mind, they affect the body. Chronic stress, autoimmune diseases, even some forms of cancer. Studies suggest that long-term emotional suppression weakens the immune system and increases the risk of illness. People who suppress anger are more likely to suffer from heart disease. People who repress sadness have higher risks of chronic fatigue and depression. People who live in constant stress age faster with weakened immune systems. Your emotions are not just psychological, they are biological. And the more you suppress them, the more they manifest physically. This is why some people feel a tightness in their chest when they are anxious. Why others experience stomach pain when they are emotionally overwhelmed. Because the body keeps score. It remembers every unspoken word, every denied feeling, every time you told yourself, it doesn't matter, when it did. And eventually, it fights back. For you become addicted to escapism. The world has provided endless ways to avoid facing yourself. Social media, endless entertainment, drugs, alcohol, casual relationships with no depth, constant busyness disguised as productivity. People will do anything to avoid sitting alone with their thoughts, because deep down they know, if they stop running, everything they have suppressed will catch up to them. This is why addictions exist, not just to substances but to distractions. This is why people drown themselves in noise, because silence is terrifying. This is why so many wake up one day feeling empty, lost, disconnected. Not because something is missing, but because something has been ignored for too long. 5. Your future is stolen by emotional conditioning. Every time you suppress an emotion, your brain learns a pattern. If you ignore sadness, your brain learns that pain must be hidden. If you avoid confrontation, your brain learns that boundaries are dangerous. If you numb discomfort, your brain learns that growth is something to fear. And once these patterns are formed, they become your reality. Think about that. The way you handle emotions today is shaping the life you will live tomorrow. Your fears will dictate the risks you never take. Your resentments will dictate the people you push away. Your inability to process emotions will dictate the choices you regret. Every moment you suppress an emotion, you are choosing a future built on avoidance rather than understanding. And that is the greatest unseen consequence of all. The breaking point. At some point, something will happen that forces you to confront everything you've been avoiding. Maybe it will be a personal crisis, a loss, a heartbreak, a moment where the weight of years of suppression becomes unbearable. And in that moment, you will have two choices. Continue suppressing, keep running, keep distracting yourself, keep letting emotions control you from the shadows. Turn around and face them. Learn to understand them. Learn to integrate them. Learn to use them as a source of power rather than fear. This is where most people fail, because confronting emotions is uncomfortable, painful, and terrifying. But those who do, they discover something most people never will: the ability to truly master themselves. And in the next section, we will explore exactly how to break free from this cycle, and how to reclaim control over the emotions that have controlled you for so long. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that everything you've been running from, the fears, the sadness, the anger, the shame, was never your enemy. That every emotion you tried to suppress wasn't a weakness, but a message, a signal, a guide to something deeper. And that the real danger was never the emotion itself, but your refusal to listen to it. This is where the rebellion begins. Because to truly control your emotions, you must first stop fearing them. Step 1. Shift your perspective. Emotions are not the enemy. For most of your life, you've been conditioned to believe that some emotions are bad and should be avoided at all costs. Anger? Suppress it. Stay calm. Sadness? Hide it. Smile more. Fear. Ignore it. Be strong. Shame. Bury it. Pretend it doesn't exist. But what if this entire approach is wrong? Nietzsche once said, "That which does not kill us makes us stronger." And this applies to emotions as well. Because anger, sadness, fear, and shame are not here to destroy you. They are here to teach you something. Anger is not a problem. It's a response to injustice, a signal that your boundaries have been crossed. Sadness is not a weakness. It's the mind's way of processing loss, of showing you what truly matters. Fear is not your enemy. It's a survival instinct, guiding you toward caution or preparation. Shame is not a curse. It's an invitation to reflect, to question, to evolve. The first step to breaking free from emotional suppression is to stop resisting your emotions and start understanding them. Because the more you run, the more they control you. But the moment you face them, you reclaim your power. Step 2. Master the art of emotional awareness. You cannot control what you do not understand. And most people don't actually understand their emotions. They react, they suppress, they distract, but they never pause and ask, what is this emotion really telling me? Carl Jung called this process shadow work, the deep, introspective journey of understanding the parts of yourself that you've ignored. And the simplest way to begin? Label your emotions. It sounds almost too simple, but studies have shown that when you accurately name what you're feeling, your brain begins to regulate the emotion automatically. Instead of saying, "I'm angry," ask, "Am I frustrated because I feel unheard? Am I resentful because I feel taken for granted? Am I outraged because my values are being violated?" Instead of saying, "I'm sad," ask, "Am I grieving something I haven't acknowledged? Am I feeling disconnected from something important? Am I experiencing nostalgia for something I've lost?" The more specific you get, the more power you have. Because once you name an emotion, it stops being a vague, uncontrollable force and starts becoming something you can work with. Step 3. Stop reacting, start responding. Most people live in reaction mode. Someone insults them, they lash out. They feel anxious, they numb themselves with distractions. They get sad, they pretend everything is fine. But reacting means your emotions control you. The key is to shift from reaction to response. And here's how. The 10-second rule. Whenever you feel a strong emotion rising, anger, anxiety, fear, pause for 10 seconds before reacting. This interrupts your brain's automatic impulse and gives your rational mind time to take control. During these 10 seconds, ask, what am I really feeling? What is the wisest way to respond? If I react impulsively, will I regret this later? By doing this, you train yourself to stop being a slave to your emotions and start using them strategically. Because true emotional control isn't about suppression. It's about knowing when to express, when to reflect, and when to let go. Step 4. Use discomfort as a training ground. If you want to master your emotions, you must train yourself to withstand discomfort. What? Because avoiding discomfort is what keeps people weak. People who can't tolerate discomfort quit when things get hard. People who fear sadness cling to toxic relationships just to avoid being alone. People who fear anger let themselves be walked all over. To break free, you must build emotional endurance. And the best way to do this? Expose yourself to controlled discomfort. Practice silence. Sit alone with your thoughts without distraction for 10 to 15 minutes a day. Most people can't do this. Try it. Delay gratification. When you feel the impulse to check your phone, eat junk food, or escape discomfort, pause. Resist the urge. Strengthen your self-control. Embrace difficult conversations. Instead of avoiding conflict, lean into it. Express your emotions honestly but calmly. The more you train yourself to tolerate discomfort, the stronger you become. Because once you stop fearing emotions, you become unshakable. Step 5. Rewrite your emotional story. Your emotions are not just biological reactions. They are stories you tell yourself. And sometimes, the story is wrong. For example, a child who grows up ignored might tell themselves, "I am unworthy of love." A man who gets rejected might believe, "I am not good enough." A woman who fails might conclude, "I will never succeed." These stories shape your emotions, but here's the truth. You can rewrite them. Instead of saying, "I am unworthy of love," say, "Right arrow, I am learning how to build deeper connections." Instead of, "I am not good enough," say, "Right arrow, I am growing, improving, and evolving." Instead of, "I will never succeed," say, right arrow, every failure is part of my transformation. Words are powerful. Change your narrative and you change your emotional reality. The moment you take back control. Imagine walking into a situation that once triggered you, an argument, a rejection, a failure, but this time you don't react emotionally. You stay calm. You stay grounded. You see the emotion, but it no longer owns you. This is emotional mastery. Not the suppression of feelings, but the ability to feel deeply without being controlled by those feelings. This is what separates the weak from the strong. This is what turns emotional chaos into clarity, confidence, and power. And in the next section, we will go even deeper, into the final realization that redefines everything you thought you knew about emotions, control, and freedom. Because the ultimate truth, it will change the way you see yourself forever. What if everything you believed about emotional control was an illusion? What if the goal was never to control your emotions at all? Think about it. For centuries, humans have tried to dominate their emotions, suppressing anger, rejecting fear, numbing sadness. We call it discipline, toughness, resilience. But what if the very act of trying to control your emotions is what keeps you trapped? What if the real key to emotional mastery is not control, but acceptance, awareness, and integration? Because here's the truth. You don't control your emotions. You learn to dance with them. The illusion of control. From the moment we are born, society teaches us that emotions must be managed, controlled, tamed. Boys don't cry. Good girls don't get angry. Be strong, don't let your emotions show. And so, we spend our lives building walls around our feelings, afraid that if we let them out, we will lose control. But the paradox is this. The more you try to control an emotion, the more power it has over you. Try to suppress anger, and it festers into resentment. Try to ignore fear, and it tightens its grip. Try to bury sadness, and it turns into numbness. You cannot fight what is inside you. The only way to be free is to stop resisting and start understanding. The power of surrender. There is a famous story about the Stoic philosopher Epictetus. A Roman guard once grabbed his leg and twisted it. Epictetus calmly said, "If you keep twisting it, you will break it." The guard laughed and twisted harder, until the bone snapped. Epictetus did not scream. He did not rage. He simply said, "I told you it would break." This is not weakness. This is absolute power. Because true control is not about forcing the world, or your emotions, to obey you. It's about accepting reality exactly as it is, and choosing how you respond. The final realization. Emotions are just energy. At their core, emotions are nothing but energy moving through the body. Think about the last time you were angry. Your heart pounded. Your chest tightened. Your hands clenched. Was this anger? No. It was a surge of energy in your nervous system, one that your mind labeled as anger. But what if you removed the label? What if you just felt the sensation without attaching a story to it? Then anger is no longer anger. It is just intensity. Sadness is no longer sadness. It is depth. Fear is no longer fear. It is alertness. And the moment you see emotions for what they are, just raw, neutral energy, you are no longer their prisoner. You are free. How to transcend emotional struggle. So what does this all mean? It means that instead of trying to control your emotions, you must learn to observe them, feel them, and transform them. Here's how. 1. Stop labeling emotions as good or bad. There are no negative emotions. Only emotions. Anxiety can sharpen your focus. Sadness can deepen your wisdom. Anger can fuel your strength. Start seeing emotions as tools, not obstacles. 2. Feel the emotion fully, then let it go. When an emotion arises, don't suppress it. Don't fight it. Just feel it. Let the anger move through you without acting on it. Let the sadness wash over you without drowning in it. Let the fear rise and fall without running from it. Because here's the secret. All emotions pass, if you allow them to. What keeps them stuck is resistance. The moment you stop fighting, they lose their grip. 3. Shift from reaction to observation. Most people react to their emotions without thinking. But the moment you become the observer of your emotions instead of their slave, you take back your power. When anger arises, instead of lashing out, say, "Interesting. My body is producing anger right now. Why?" When fear arises, instead of panicking, say, "Fear is here. What is it trying to tell me?" When sadness arises, instead of drowning in it, say, "Sadness is visiting me. What does it want me to see? This simple shift from reaction to observation is the difference between being controlled by emotions and mastering them. The ultimate truth: you are not your emotions. And now we arrive at the final, most powerful realization. You are not your emotions. You experience emotions. You feel emotions. But you are not emotions. You are the awareness behind them. Think about it. You can be angry without being an angry person. You can feel fear without being a fearful person. You can feel sadness without being broken. Because emotions are temporary waves in the ocean of your consciousness. And you are the ocean. When you understand this, nothing can shake you. Not because you suppress your emotions, not because you control them, but because you see them for what they are, passing clouds in an infinite sky. You are no longer a prisoner of your emotions. You are the master of your mind. You are free. The final thought. Now take a deep breath. Feel the energy in your body. Whatever emotion is there, don't fight it. Don't resist it. Just observe it. This is the first step to true emotional mastery. Not control. Freedom. And once you realize this, you will never see emotions the same way again. Because the moment you stop running, suppressing, or controlling is the moment you finally transcend.